Spoiler alert. Under Paris, a new shark film on Netflix, uses a lot of the well-known creature feature cliches and storytelling techniques. But it finishes in a way that begs more questions than it answers. Under Paris, directed by Xavier Gens, is a crisp, fast-moving eco-horror movie that doesn't quite fit in with the genre's epics like Jaws and King Kong. But throughout its length, viewers will be riveted to their screens thanks to enough grisly shocks and scares. The opening scene of Under Paris shows Sophia, the main character, lose her crew and companion to a shark attack. Later on, Sophia discovers that the same shark Lilith is still out there in the Seine River in Paris, but she is still in mourning for their passing. Despite Sophia's greatest efforts, bureaucratic roadblocks and disorganized military actions render her attempts to defend Parisians from the ruthless beast ineffective. Before it's too late, she decides to take matters into her own hands in the hopes of saving hundreds of lives. Nevertheless, Under Paris ends on a depressing note as Sophia, despite her best attempts, is unable to stop the shark invasion. Welcome to Movie Spy. Are humans doomed to exist under Paris's destruction? Humans seem helpless against the apex hunters in the final scene of Under Paris. The goal of Sophia and the team's final arc in Under Paris is to kill the infestation before the start of the triathlon race, which the mayor has been notified about, but has refused to cancel by planting bombs in the underwater shark nest. They are disappointed to see that the bombs hardly deter the sharks. Following the underwater explosions, Lilith, the dominantly aggressive shark mother, appears to have hurt herself. But that just makes her angrier and more possessive. She thus moves straight in the direction of the swimmers and begins attacking each one individually. Fearing for their lives, those on shore rush into the Seine River to save the swimmers, only to end up as dinner for sharks. Even the military errs in judgment and begins firing aimlessly into bodies of water. This in turn sets off the submerged World War II shells, which results in yet another catastrophe. The city is soon nearly completely submerged by enormous waves as the shells explode, creating more space for the mother shark and her young to roam around freely. Adiel and Sophia manage to survive the catastrophe, only to discover that sharks are all around them. Sharks demonstrate why they are regarded as apex predators by devouring anything and everything that comes their way, despite the fact that humans still outnumber them. In the conclusion of Under Paris, humanity appears destined to perish, having nowhere to go and no means of defense, despite the fact that Under Paris, as its name implies, takes place in the capital of France. The final credits of the film emphasize how the shark attack's devastation goes well beyond European borders. Under explained. Paris end credits scene. Highlights of the end credits. The danger does not end in Paris. The speed with which the sharks travel to other regions of the planet is depicted in the Paris end credits scene. Lilith and her babies invade Paris, then go to London, and then various sections of the United States. The fact that they also wind up in Asian cities like Bangkok and Tokyo emphasizes just how widespread the shark invasion has become. Given that water covers almost 70% of Earth's surface, sharks appear to have ample space to roam around and assert their supremacy over people. An explanation of the new shark species found beneath Paris. Under Paris, sharks will eventually outnumber people. Charles Darwin once said, "The species that survive aren't the strongest species, nor are they the most intelligent, but rather the ones who best adapt to change." This phrase may be seen beneath Paris prologue. The phrase emphasizes how, although not having the same level of intelligence as people, the sharks in the movie have mutations that allow them to adapt to changes far more quickly than people. Even though mocha sharks like Lilith are not meant to live in freshwater, Under Paris opening arc shows that the shark appears to have a mutation that enables it to thrive in the Seine River. Lilith may also reproduce asexually through a technique known as parthenogenesis, as Sophia later learns. This capacity enables Lilith to generate an army of sharks before Sophia and her team are able to take any action to eradicate her. Later on, Sophia finds out that even the younger sharks can procreate using the same method, even if they haven't reached sexual maturity. As a result, shark populations increase enormously, outpacing attempts by humans to reduce the menace. Are the World War II submarine shells under Paris real? The way the shells are portrayed in the film has a hint of realism. In Under Paris, people are ill-prepared for unforeseen events, in contrast to sharks. As a result, when the shark assault begins, people cause their own deaths by setting off the World War II underwater shells, which flood the entire city. Reports from 2022 via Soder Paris state that in an area the size of a football field, divers and bomb disposal teams had discovered nearly 150 World War II shells submerged in the Seine River. Still, these components posed less of a concern because the majority lacked an igniting system. Nevertheless, since about 600,000 tons of bombs were dropped in France between June 1940 and May 1945, roughly 15% of which never even exploded, activists continue to view unexploded bombs and shells as a serious threat via NDTV. As a result, despite being fictional, Under Paris' depiction of the shells and their damage mimics a real-world issue. While the invasion of sharks depicted in the film may be a long way off, Under Paris skillfully employs shark attacks as a narrative device to underscore the threats that people face from nature's capricious powers. How the close of Under Paris portrays a Follow You Under Paris on Netflix ends with a big cliffhanger. Given that the majority of creature movies, particularly those involving sharks, conclude with humanity ultimately triumphing over the impending threat, it is difficult to resist the assumption that Sophia and Adil will eventually vanquish Lilith and her shark army in Under Paris. Surprisingly, though, the movie's last storyline loses optimism as people unintentionally intensify the shark invasion. While Sophia and Adil were initially headed in the right direction in trying to solve the problem, they too end up in a hopeless situation where bureaucratic meddling and erratic judgments made by the public and military frustrate their attempts. Paris's conclusion, which emphasizes how the shark invasion has become a global menace, effectively sets up a shocking sequel in which humanity will need to band together to eliminate the sharks. The general response to Paris has also been very favorable. It appears to be generating positive results for Netflix as well. This might persuade the streamer to approve the follow-up. Under Paris 2 will, however, probably need a bigger budget because it will include even more sharks and broaden its scope to include various international settings.